Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of the textual study of the Quran. I am being told that this is the 48th session, and we are on Surah Al-Imran verses 65 to 82. We have already discussed in our last session the detailed points which arise in the explanation of this section, and today we will be attempting its literal and idiomatic translation. So once again, a very short and a sweet reminder, I would say, that please try to benefit from this literal and idiomatic translation. The purpose of this translation is to bring you closer to the text, especially people who are not conversant with the Arabic language in the sense that they understand Arabic. This exercise is meant to bring you very close to the text and how you can translate it without even knowing Arabic. It's just a question of noting down some of the vocabulary points, and also we know that this vocabulary keeps on repeating itself, and if you are able to write it down, and also it would be wonderful if you can practice this every session that we do. Once we complete this later on by your own self, by translating it and then comparing your translation with the original, I do hope that this will be inshallah of tremendous benefit for you. I've been doing this with some other students in many different sections of my teaching career, and I have found a good useful feedback from the students. So that is why I wanted to introduce this in our Quran session as well. So starting off with verse 65, the literal and idiomatic translation. Ya ahlal kitab lima tuhajjuna fi Ibrahima wa ma unzilat at-Tawrat wal Injil illa min ba'dihi afala taqilun. Ya, O ahlal kitab, people of the book, lima, why, tuhajjun, you dispute, fi, about, Abraham, wa, and, ma, what, unzilat, has been revealed, at-Tawrat, Vama unzila, and Vama, this would be wa and ma. This is the ma is here for negation. So the translation would be and not, unzilat, revealed, at-Tawrah, the Torah, Al-Injil, the Injil, wa is and, illa, except. So not revealed Torah and Injil except min ba'dihi, after it. So after him actually. So min ba'dihi refers to the fact after Abraham. So literally it would be, O people of the book, why dispute you about Abraham and not revealed the Torah and Injil except after Abraham? And idiomatically it would be, people of the book, why do you dispute about Abraham when the Torah and Injil, they were revealed after him? Afala taqilun. So afala is actually is meant for imposing a question, so it's like an interrogative. Do, fala, not, do, therefore not. So fa is therefore, la is not. So literally it would be, do, therefore not, taqilun, you use your intellect, you therefore not use your intellect. So idiomatically it would be, then why do you not use your intellect? Why do you not try to understand? Ha antum haula'i hajajtum fima lakum bihi ilm. Ha antum, ha antum, the word ha here is meant for grabbing attention, for focusing attention, so that is why it is used like this. Otherwise the real word is antum. So ha antum would be look, you. Haulai, you. Haulai of course refers to the demonstrative pronoun in the distant. So ha antum haulai, so it is you. Ha jajtum. Ha jajtum would be to argue and to dispute, or to have a detailed argument. So it's like ha jajtum would be, it is you who have an argument, it is you who dispute, or it is you who have disputed, because the word ha jajtum is actually a past tense. So ha jajtum would be, it is you who have disputed, fima, about, lakum, for you, bihi, in it, ilm, knowledge. So literally it would be you, they, you, ha antum haulai is basically like adding an emphasis. So it is you, ha antum haulai, it is you, ha jajtum, who dispute, fima, about, lakum, for you, bihi ilm, in which there is knowledge. So idiomatically it would be that you are people who argue about things, who dispute about things about which you had some knowledge. Bihi ilm. So remember, the word ilm is not defined here. It occurs as an indefinite noun, and this indefinite nature of the noun entails that we translate it in the form of little knowledge. So al-ilm, instead of al-ilm, it is ilm, and the reason that we don't have alif lam makes us translate this word ilm as little knowledge. Falima. So falima tuhajjun. So again, falima. Therefore, lima, why? Therefore, why? Tuhajjun, you dispute, you argue. Fima, in that. Laysa, not. Lakum, for you. Bihi, in it. Ilm, knowledge. So literally it would be, therefore why you argue about not for you in it knowledge. And if I make this into a meaningful sentence, it would be, but you must argue now about that which, but must you or should you now argue about that which you have any knowledge? So therefore the meaning is that indeed you are the ones who argued about things about which you had some knowledge. So previously you had some knowledge and you made an argument, okay. But falima tuhajjun, but why do you now argue about things about which laysa lakum bihi ilm, about things which you don't have any knowledge? So laysa is not, lakum, for you, bihi, in it knowledge. So things about which you don't have any knowledge, it does not befit you that you start arguing about those things. Previously you had some knowledge. Previously you were disputing about things about which you have had knowledge, but now you are doing something about which you have no knowledge. And wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Wa, and Allah, God, ya'lamu, knows. Wa, and antum, you, la, not, ta'lamun, know. So literally it would be, and God knows and you not know. And God knows and you not know. So idiomatically it would be, and God knows while you do not know. And God knows while you do not know. Ma kana Ibrahimu Yahudiyan wala Nasraniya. Ma, not. Kana, was. Ibrahim, Abraham. Yahudi, a Jew. Wa, and. La, not. Nasrani, Nazarene. So I've already discussed this word before you, that basically the original word for people who followed Jesus was Nazarene. And we know the reason for that is that because Jesus was born in Nazareth, and he was also called Jesus of Nazareth, and therefore his followers were called Nazarenes as a result of that. It was later on that this word was abandoned in favor of the word Christian. So you will not find the word Christian being used anywhere in the Quran. Everywhere, wherever the Christians are mentioned, or followers of Jesus to be precise are mentioned, they're always called as Nasara, which is Nazarenes. So it would be and not Ibrahim, and was not Ibrahim a Jew or a Christian or a Nazarene. Wa, and, lakin, but, kana, was, Hanifa. Hanifa means dedicated. Muslima, Muslim. So literally it would be, not was Abraham Jew or not Nazarene, and but was dedicated Muslim. So this would be the literal translation. And if you make it into a meaningful sentence, it would be that Abraham was neither a Jew nor a Christian or a Nazarene. In fact, he was a dedicated Muslim. So Hanif is someone who is fully dedicated, who's someone who's fully adopted religion, and he is devoted in this matter. So that is what Hanif is. Hanifa, Muslima. And then وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Wa, and. Ma, not. Kana, was. Min, among. Al-Mushrikeen, the idolaters. So it would be, and not was he from the idolaters. So that would be the literal translation. But idiomatically it would be, and he was not amongst idolaters. And remember this alif lam on al-mushrikun, actually this is a definite article, and it points towards a special category of the mushrikun, or the idolaters who were right there in the city of Mecca, of course, or who lived in a larger sense in Arabia. They were the Ishmaelites also. They are also called the Ummiyeen by the Quran, the unlettered. So whenever you find this alif lam with the word mushrik, always remember that this refers to the idolaters of Arabia, people who were Ishmaelites. So remember, the claim of all these three denominations was that Abraham was their ancestor. So the Jews said Abraham was their ancestor, the Nazarene said he was their ancestor, and the idolaters also said that they belong to his lineage. So the Quran is now negating and saying that he was neither a Jew nor a Nazarene, and nor was he amongst these idolaters, but he was a Hanifan Muslimah. He was like someone who was a devoted Muslim. And again, one thing that you might need to note here is that the word al-mushrikun, wherever it occurs, as I said, it refers to the idolaters of Arabia. It does not refer to the mushriks of the world, as sometimes it is thought to be so. And also important to know is that people become idolaters when they confess or they acknowledge that they are doing idolatry. In the absence of that, the Quran does not call any person who indulges in polytheism or idolatry but does not profess to it positively. And I've been saying this all along, that this is precisely the reason why the Christians who regard Jesus to be the Son of God, and of course this is a form of idolatry, it's a form of polytheism, but the Quran does not call them as polytheists. It calls them to be deviant monotheists. Yes, they are following monotheism, but because they always interpret the Trinity in a way that they say that this is an expression of their understanding of monotheism, the Quran does not accept this understanding, but it says, okay, since you do not confess towards polytheism, you confess towards monotheism, so we will call you monotheists. And I think this is a huge object lesson for all of us, that people who do not confess to a certain thing that we might think that they are doing must never be called by that name. And that is why in the whole of the Quran, I've been saying this earlier on as well, in the whole of the Quran you'll not find al-mushrik, the word al-mushrik, being used for the Christians, in spite of the fact that they regarded Jesus to be Son of God. And in fact, the Jews of Arabia also were technically doing polytheism, because they associated Uzair or Azra to be the Son of God. But both of them, they are regarded to be monotheists, and as far as being polytheists are concerned, the only polytheists which the Quran recognizes are the idolaters, and that too because they confess and admit to polytheism. Inna awla an-nasi bi Ibrahima lillazina ittaba'uhu wa hadha an-nabiyyu wallazina amanu wallahu waliyyul mu'minin. Inna, indeed, awla, more entitled, an-nas, people, be Ibrahim, about Abraham, lillazina, those who, ittaba'uhu. And of course, when we read this word by joining it with the previous, we would say nattaba'uhu. So nattaba'uhu would mean who followed him. Wa, and hazan nabi, and this prophet, of course referring to Prophet Muhammad. Wa, and allazina, those who amanu, professed faith. Wa, and Allah, God, waliyu, friend or companion, al-mu'mineen, believers. So, inna awlun nasi bi Ibrahima, literally it would mean, indeed, more entitled amongst people to Abraham are those who followed him, and this prophet, and these believers. And idiomatically, it would be that indeed those who followed Abraham are more entitled to ascribe themselves to him, to attribute themselves to him. And now this prophet also is entitled. So, hazan nabiyyu wallazina amanu. So, indeed, those who ascribe themselves to him, they are more entitled to be called his followers, and this prophet also, and his people who have professed faith with him. Hazan nabi, this prophet, wa, and allazina, those who amanu, who believed. So, and those who have professed faith in him, which means who have professed faith in prophet, they are the ones who are more entitled to be called the followers of Abraham. Wallahu waliyul mu'mineen, and wa, and Allah, God, waliyu, friend, al-mu'mineen, believers. So literally it would be, and God, friends, believers. And to make it more meaningful, it would be, and God is the friend of believers. And as you can see, Ustaz Ghamidi has translated this while giving due consideration to the alif lam appended to mu'mineen. So it's not just the mu'mineen, it is these mu'mineen, or these believers. So in other words, one thing that I have also been making this point all along is that whenever you translate a Quranic verse, don't forget to translate the word alif lam, because at times it is used for a genre and at times it is indicating a specific subset. So here, of course, not all the believers of the world are being referred to. And as you can see, the word al is referring to these mu'mineen, which means people right there in front of their eyes. So they are the ones about whom we say that God is their companion. So it's not that God is not a companion to the rest. The only thing is that the point being made here is that such believers who are the followers of Abraham, they are the ones about whom we can say that God befriends them. God is a friend of them. So the word wali, as you can see, has several meanings: companion, friend, associate, all and master. All these things occur in its meaning, but obviously it is the context which decides. So here it is, Wallahu waliyul mu'mineen, and God is a friend or a companion to these believers, referring to the believers who are right there. So do make it a point that whenever you have this practice session of translating the Quran, and I would say this again, that when we finish off these lessons, please try to practice your own translation. So remember, the more you practice, the more you will be able to come closer to the text of the Quran. And when you do so, always translate the alif lam wherever it occurs on a noun. So for example, here you can see an-nabi is appended. The word alif lam is appended to nabi, which means not every nabi. It's referring to Prophet Muhammad. So that is why the alif lam is there. And similarly, if you look at al-mu'mineen, so it's not all the believers that are being referred to. The believers who are right there are being referred to. And by the way, you might also want to know this, that the word Allah is also made by appending alif lam to the word ilah. So al, when you append alif lam or al to ilah, it becomes Allah. So there is an extra lam which occurs in between, and that is dropped. This is what is called assimilation in the Arabic language, when two similar words come together so that they become three. So one of them is dropped. So al-ilah becomes Allah. So basically, Allah is in alif lam appended to ilah. وَدَّتْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يُضِلُّونَكُمْ. So waddat means want or wish. Ta'ifa, we have this word in our Urdu language as well. So the word ta'ifa means group. Min, from among. Ahlil kitab, people of the book. Law, desire. Yudillunakum, to lead you astray. So literally it would be desire a group from the people of the book that you go astray, you deviate from the right path. So idiomatically it would be a group from among the believers, from the people of the book. A group from among the people of the book desires that would you not go. So law is like expressing your desire, and the word waddat also has the same meaning. So when you translate words in which you have similar meaning, so you can see that some stresses are added. So waddat ta'ifatum min ahlil kitab would mean that waddat, of course, means to desire. People, there is a group from among the people of the book who desires would that you go astray. So it's saying that they want you to go astray. Wa and ma, not. Yudilluna. So ma yudilluna is misleading or going astray. Illa, except. So not going astray except themselves. So wa and ma is not yudilluna, going astray. Illa, except anfusahum, themselves. So literally it would be and not going astray except themselves. And not going astray except themselves. Meaning that only they themselves are going astray. Vama yash'urun, va not ma, va is and, ma is not, yash'urun understand, and not they understand, which means and they do not understand. So you see, it's just a question of making sense out of words which are translated individually, isolatedly, so that you know the individual meaning, and then you can make sense of the scattered sentence. Ya Ahlul Kitab. So Ya is O, Ahlul Kitab, people of the book, O people of the book. So the word Ya is an invocative. The invocative means that you are calling out to someone. O people of the book. Lima, why? Takfuruna. So takfuruna means deny. You deny. Be. So remember the word ba always comes with kafara. So it's like That's what we call a preposition. So basically, takfuruna be is one compound word. Ayat. So ayat is the plural of ayah and means revelations. Allah, God. Wa, and. Antum, you. Tashhadun, bear witness. So literally it would be, O people of the book, why you deny revelations of God and you bear witness. So idiomatically it would be, people of the book, why do you deny God's revelations when you bear witness to them? Which means that you know that they are true. If you know what they are true, then why do you deny these revelations of God? And also the thing that I make this, once again, a point to be stressed is that, remember, the crime and the charge sheet of the Jews and the Christians, which is presented by the Quran, not only in Surah Baqarah and Al-Imran. So we've gone through Surah Baqarah, we are almost halfway, or one third, I would say, through Al-Imran. You'll see that the charge sheet has one single element that makes their crime to be very grave. And that is, they deliberately denied. Wa antum tashhadun, they bear witness to it, which means that they know that the truth is what they are being told. But out of arrogance, out of jealousy, and out of other vested interests, they were not entrusted to accept. So the Quran says, yes, if there was any misinformation, any disinformation, any lack of information, any confusion, the Prophet and the Quran had been revealed for this very reason, to remove it. But what can be done with people who understand fully, who are in no way in any confusion? There's no lack of information. They completely get the point, but out of arrogance, they don't accept it. So it is here where God's wrath really, really turns into frenzy, and He is really annoyed with such people that who accept the truth but say we'll not accept it. So we have to understand that the charge sheet has this very grave element. The denial is not something, as I said, out of any misconception or misunderstanding. The denial is deliberate. And it is here that God says that people who deny deliberately, they cannot be allowed to go scot-free. So, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, lima talbisun al-haqqa bil-batili wa taktumun al-haqqa wa antum ta'lamun. Ya, O Ahl al-Kitab, people of the book. Lima, why? Talbisuna. So talbisuna means to mix, intermingle. Al-haq, the truth. Be, with. Al-batil, the evil. So literally it would be, O people of the book, why you mix the truth with evil? And idiomatically it would be, people of the book, why do you mix the truth with falsehood? Why do you mix the truth with evil? Wa, and taktumuna. So taktumuna means you hide. Al-haq, the truth, and you hide the truth. Wa, and antum, you. Ta'lamun, know. This is precisely what I was just stating. And literally it would mean, and you hide the truth and you know. You hide the truth and you know. And idiomatically it would mean, and you conceal the truth. You hide the truth, whereas you even know. And even when you know it, in other words, what is being said is that in spite of knowing the truth, you hide it. Taktumun al-haqqa wa antum ta'lamun. You are denying the truth, which you very well know is the truth. So this is what I was just referring to, that the Quran and the Almighty, they express tremendous anger against people who deny the truth in spite of knowing the truth to be very well known to them. And that is what the Quran has actually said here. As you recall, in Surah Baqarah also, the same charge had been brought against the Jews. Yes, you can find in Surah Al-Imran also, the Jews are addressed, and that is why a compound word, people of the book, is used. But you'll see that gradually as the surah moves forward, the word, you'll find just the word Ahlul Kitab is slowly and surely moving towards the addressees, who are the Nazarenes or the Christians. Okay, before I go forward, if you have any questions regarding the part that we have studied, please let me know.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab. Dr. Sahab, my question is regarding the application of said verses to the present day and age. There are many Muslim podcasters and some scholars who have recently been saying that the Christian clergy, the leading Christian clergy in England, if you ask them privately, they will admit that they believe that Prophet Muhammad is one of the prophets of God. Yet if you ask them, why don't you follow the Quran, or why don't you follow Muhammad, then their answer is that we admit that he is a prophet, but at the same time, that is a religion for some other people, and this is the religion of our forefathers, and we would like to follow them. So this seems like a very similar argument that the people of the book made in the times of the prophet as well. Some of the people of the book made the same argument. So does God's law, as it applied to the people of the book in the times of the prophet, apply to such clergy of these times?
You see, we cannot say with certainty if these people are denying out of any intentional intent in which they would like to deny and say that, well, if he's a prophet of God, then he's just for the Muslims and not for us. If the argument is what they say is something which is misleading them, so that is something which only God can decide. As far as we are concerned, what we can say is that if they are deliberately doing so, they are convinced of Prophet Muhammad and they are, not accepting him in spite of that, then the Almighty has given us this precedent in the Quran then that, they will not be forgiven for that. The only chance for them is that they are in some sort of confusion. So you see, this is exactly the difference between this post-prophetic era and the era of Prophet Muhammad. In that era, this confusion is absolutely removed in the presence of Prophet himself. So no confusion remains, and that is precisely the meaning of Itmamul Hujjah. But in later times, like for example today, Itmamul Hujjah, or conclusive communication of the truth as we call it, can not take place, because remember, for that you need a prophet of God. So because today prophets don't come, so now there is always a chance that people may get confused, may have some misinformation, may be misled by the actions of the Muslims. They could have a legitimate excuse. So therefore, the stance of the Quran is very clear that if any such thing has happened in which they are denying or being drawn away because of any confusion or lack of information or disinformation, they will be given some leverage for that. But if they are convinced and it's just that they are posing something outwardly, then there's no forgiveness for them. But the other important thing is that their worldly punishment has been deferred. So remember, in the prophetic era, if people deliberately deny, the Almighty makes it sure that they are punished in this world. But in the post-prophetic era, the era in which we live, even if people deliberately deny, then their punishment is deferred to the day of judgment. So what we can just say is that if today the people who do so, who accept Prophet Muhammad as a prophet, and they say that he's not our prophet, he's a prophet to the Muslims and our prophet is Jesus, because you see, the Quran has made a case absolutely opposite to this. The Quran has addressed the people of the book right in the beginning of Surah Baqarah and said, Aminu bima anzaltu. You have to believe in what we have brought to you, because your own books bear witness that there's going to be a final prophet and who's going to bring a final book of God. So now that he has arrived, we expect you to be the first to profess belief in him. And that is why the Quran says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا أَوَّلَ كَافِرٍ بِهِ. Why are you the first people to deny this Quran? So that is something they will have to face in the hereafter. But remember, as I said, in today's world where conclusive communication of the truth has not taken place against these non-Muslims, this is something which God is going to decide.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Sahab, my question is regarding the Quran's use of the word ma yasharun for non-believers, in contrast to what you already explained, that they knew it, they willfully were denying it. Also in the ayah 19 of this surah and elsewhere, I think in Surah Baqarah, where the use of the word ma yakhdawun, over there as well, the Quran uses the term ma yasharun. So I am unable to understand, why does the Quran say this?
These are two different instances. So you see, وَمَا يُضِلُّونَ إِنْ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُم means that they are trying to lead themselves away while not being aware of it. So they're like deceiving themselves of this particular issue. And being aware of the fact that the Prophet was a true Prophet, and to them, he was someone who had come in confirmation of the prophecies which were found in their own books. That is another issue. So these are two different things. When the Quran says that you should, it actually expresses the fact that the people of the book desire that you go astray. And when they desire this, they are only deceiving themselves. So this is the point that is being made here. So Wama Yashurun is not being made the point is not being made in that larger sense. It's only saying that when you wish, when a group from among the people of the book wishes that Muslims be led astray, this is a desire that they have, and this desire is just leading them astray. So it is a comment on this particular desire. Whereas the rest of the Quran, or the rest of the verse, as you can see, Antum tashhadun wa antum ta'lamun, all these refer to the broader aspect in which the fact is that you know the truth, the complete truth, the whole truth, and you still don't accept it.
Right, understood.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. So, Dr. Saleem, my question is that the alif lam makes a noun into a proper noun. Is that what the understanding?
Not always. So that is a simplistic understanding. Yes, it does at times make a proper noun, but in the Arabic language, the word, the alif lam, it's called the definite article. Whenever it is appended to a common noun, it gives it two basic nuances, I would say. So one of them is that it's referring to the genre. So for example, when I say I'm going to a tree, or if I say the tree which is in my garden is bearing fruit, so I'm referring to a very particular tree. But when I say that do not go near the tree, or when I say the tree has branches, so I'm just referring to a general tree, not all the trees. So when I'm specifically referring to some particular type of tree, then also I use the word alif lam. And when I am referring to the genre of trees, then I also use the same alif lam. So it's a question of understanding where the alif lam is being used to refer to a genre and where it is being used to a specific category. So in one case, all types of trees would be referred, and in the second case, only a particular type of tree would be referred to. So that is the difference. That it's not just it makes it to be a proper noun. It either makes it into a common category of nouns or a specific subset of that category.
Okay, thank you for that. Abdul Rahman, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Dr. Sir, I have a question. Like just a few moments back, you were saying about the desire that the Muslim should not get guided. Is this only limited between Christians versus Muslims, or is this a general one? If even a Muslim desires that somebody should not get guided, so that is also applied to him?
So this verse is particularly referring to the people of the book of the times of the Prophet. So it's not referring to all the people of the book or a group from among them. So today we might be having such a group, but the Quran is not referring to that. It's besides the point. Whether people are still doing it or not is another thing. But in the times of the Prophet, they would play this prank, as we have seen in our previous session also, that they would profess faith in the morning and then they would leave faith in the evening and give this impression that, well, we did try to understand, but it didn't make sense, and now we are leaving this faith. So this was a prank that they would employ. Similarly, here, a part of the people of the book is being said that they would like you to go astray. So it's like referring to the Prophet and his companions. So this verse has a very specific context. It's not a general thing that it's speaking of.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. So no more questions at this time. You can continue with the session. Thank you.
So now we go on to the next part. وقالت طائفة من أهل الكتاب آمنوا بالذي أنزل على الذين آمنوا وجه النهار واكفروا آخره لعلهم يرجعون. So this is what precisely I was referring to. I'll just explain this in one sec. So it says وقالت طائفة, wa and قالت said, طائفة a group, min from, أهل الكتاب people of the book, آمنوا profess faith. Aminu Be is one compound word. As you know, I've been telling this previously as well, that the word Ba is a preposition for Aminu. So Aminu Be means profess faith. Allazi in that, Unzila has been revealed, Allah on, Allazina those, Amanu have believed, Wajhan Nahar. So Wajhan Nahar means beginning of the day. Va and Ukfuruhu or Wakfuruhu would mean deny it. Akhirahu, at the end of the day, la'allahum, so that they, yarji'un, they give up, which means give up their faith, of course. So literally it would be, and said a group from the people of the book, profess faith in that which has been revealed upon those who have believed, in the morning and deny it at the end of the day, so that they give up, or they give up their faith. Actually, that is what is implied. So this is the literal translation, but idiomatically it would mean that a group from the people of the book says that you profess faith in the book that has been revealed to the believers. You profess faith in the morning. Wajhan nahar means in the morning. Nahar is morning, wajh means beginning. So nahar is actually day, and wajh means beginning. So wajhan nahar would mean beginning of the day. Wakfuru akhirahu, and deny it at the end of the day. Akhirahu, at the end, who, that part. So nahar, akhiran nahar actually is the implied meaning. Akhiran nahar would mean the end of the day. La'allahum, so that they abandon faith. So this is what I was just precisely referring to, that they would say that you profess faith in the morning and you just leave faith in the evening, so that the common masses are disillusioned. So you see, this is an impression that they would give, that if you profess faith in the morning, this would give them this impression that they were seriously considering this new faith. But after deliberating the whole day, when they saw nothing logical in it, they just abandoned it in the evening. So this would give the impression to the common masses that, well, these people really thought about it and they found nothing logical or nothing convincing, and so they left it. So this was a ploy that they adopted, so that the common masses would be disillusioned against this new faith. And then they would further say, wala, wa, and la, not, tu'minu, profess faith, illa, except, leman, he who, tabi'a, follows, dinakum, your religion. So literally it would mean, and not profess faith except he follows your faith, he who follows your faith. And idiomatically it would mean, and do not believe in anyone except him who follows your faith. So in other words, it would mean that only people who follow your religion only profess faith in them, only listen to them, only pay heed to them. Qul, say, inna, indeed, al-huda, the guidance, hudallah, guidance of God. Now this is like a parenthetical sentence. I have already explained this, that this is an insertion, and the discourse actually is, dinakum is connected to an yu'ta. In between this kul innal huda hudallah is just a parenthetical sentence which is meant to comment on the previous part. So the comment is say, which means, O Prophet, you say or tell them, innal huda, indeed the guidance of God, which means indeed the real guidance is God's guidance. An yu'ta, so an would mean lest, yu'ta ahadum, so yu'ta would mean given, ahadun, any one of you, misla, similar to, ma, that, utitum, you have been given. So au, or yuhajukum, or you dispute in the, or they dispute you, au yuhajukum, they dispute you in the presence, rabbikum, your Lord. So literally, as I said, an yu'ta ahadum misla ma utitum would mean lest given anyone like you what you have been given. Lest given anyone like you what you have been given, or they dispute with you in God's presence. So literally, I have done this translation, and idiomatically it would mean lest such a thing which is bestowed on you is bestowed, or lest such a thing which is given to you is given to others also, or they dispute about you or dispute with you in the presence of your Lord. Of course, this would mean that if you give them credibility, then they would be calling you in the presence of God and telling the Almighty that, look, we argued with them and they accepted our argument. So now they are telling each other that if you follow them, if you hear them, then you'll give them an argument against yourselves. And this would be as if you give something to them, they will say that, well, we also desire that thing. So it's like saying that if you entertain them, then this will become a negative for you in the presence of God. Qul, say, inna, indeed, al-fadl, blessing, biyadillah, in the hand of God. So say, indeed, the blessing is in the hand of God. Yu'tihi, he gives it, man yasha, to whom he wants. Wa, and Allah, God. Wasi means someone who's munificent, someone who is vast in his own attitude, Alim, knowledgeable. So, and God is vast and God is munificent and He is knowledgeable. Yakhtassu. So, yakhtassu means selects. Yakhtassu, He selects. Bi rahmatihi, with His mercy. Bi rahmatihi, with His. So, Be is with, Rahma is mercy, He is His. He selects through His mercy or with His mercy, man yasha, man, whoever, yasha, He wants. He selects with His mercy whoever He wants, or in, which actually means that He is merciful to those He wants. So, yakhtassu bi rahmatihi would mean that He chooses for His mercy whoever He wants. So, that in effect means that He is merciful to whomsoever He wants. Wallahu zul fadl al azim, wa, and Allah God, zul fadl, owner of blessing, azim, greatness. So He is the owner of blessing, and greatness would mean that He has greatness and He has exaltedness, and He is a blessed being. So that is what the word says. So Zu is just a word which means owner of someone who possesses something. So Zul Fazl mean He possesses Fazl. Zul Azim means that He possesses Azma, and basically, of course, Al Azim here is an adjective for Fazl. Al Fazl Al Azim is the real word, and Zu is just telling us that He is the owner of great Fazl. He is the owner of the great blessing. وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ من إن تأمنه بقنطار يؤديه إليك ومنهم من إن تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك إلا ما دمت عليه قائما. These are magnificent Arabic words, the way they have been chosen and selected. I mean, only one can wonder how human beings can construct this. It's a construction which is so unique that one immediately leaps to the fact that only God could have said these words in this manner. So, wa and min ahlil kitab, from among the people of the book. Man, are they, or is that person, we can say. In ta'manhu, if you entrust him, ta'manhu, give him that amana. If you entrust him with biqintar. So qintar means a huge treasure. Yu'addihi, he will give it. Ilayka, back to you. So literally it would mean that and from among the people of the book, he who, if you entrust him with treasure, he will give it back to you. And idiomatically it would mean that from among the people of the book, there will be some who will give back to you even if you entrust a whole treasure to them. And contrary to that, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ wa, and minhum, among them, man, he who, in, if, ta'manhu, you entrust him, bidinarin, even with a small dinar, not a treasure but a dinar, la yuaddihi, he will return, ilayka, to you, illa, except, ma dumta, you persistently remain, alayhi, on him, qaima, standing. So idiomatically it would mean that whereas there is another person from among the people of the book, there is another type of person with whom, if you entrust even a dinar, he will not return it to you. So remember, there is one group or there is one type of people to whom, if you entrust a whole treasure, they'll return it to you. But there is another group to whom, if you entrust even a dinar, which is a very, very small amount, he will not return it back to you. La yuaddihi ilayka illa, except ma dumta alayhi qaima, except if you keep standing on his head, which means that you know that you are going to demand it again and again from him. Okay. Zalika bi annahum. Zalika, this is bi annahum, because they. Be is because, annahum is they. This is because they, qalu, said, laysa, not, alayna, upon us, fi is about, ummiyin. Ummiyin are these Arabs, because they are unlettered, so they were called ummiyin, these Arabs or these unlettered. Sabil, any way. So literally it would mean, this is because they said that laysa alayna fil ummiyin, there is no way upon us regarding the ummiyin, no way upon us. So this is actually an idiom which means that we are not to blame in the matter of these ummiyeen. Laysa alayna fil ummiyina sabil. We are not to blame. We cannot be called to account in the matter of these ummiyeen. So al-ummiyeen also here refers to the Arabs, not to all ummis, and that is why we will translate it as these unlettered or these ummiyeen. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say, عَلَى on God, al-kazib. Kazib means a lie. Wa, and whom they ya'lamun, they know. And they say a lie on God and they know about it. So in other words, what is implied here is that they fabricate a lie on God and they very well know that they are fabricating this. So the thing that is being pointed out here is that they say that they will not be called to account in the matters of these ummiyeen. As far as these unlettered are concerned, if they are dishonest to them in any way, then it's not a problem, because God wants them to be honest only with their own type. So only with the Israelites should they be honest and be very, very trustworthy. As far as people outside themselves are concerned, which are these ummiyeen, so even if you are dishonest to them, this is not a problem, because you are not blameworthy about them. About this, the Quran says that this is a lie that they have concocted upon God. This is a lie. The Quran says, يَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبِ. They have told a lie about God. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, and they know about it. They know that they are lying about God. So again, the same thing, that they are doing this out of deliberate intent. It's not out of any confusion. Bala, indeed, in man he, awfa, fulfilled, bi'ahdihi, his promise, wa, and ittaqa. So when you read it separately, it would be ittaqa, but when you read it with waw joined together, it would be wattaqa. Wattaqa means, and he who remained fearful of God. So ittaqa or taqwa, of course, means to be fearful of God. Fa, therefore, inna, indeed, Allah, God, yuhibbu means likes or loves, al-muttaqeen, the pious or the God-fearing. Bala, man awfa bi ahdi would mean indeed who abides by his promise, indeed who fulfills his promise, wattaqa, and is also God-fearing. Then indeed God loves such people. Indeed God loves such people, which means He loves the muttaqoon. He loves people who are God-fearing. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَشْتَرُونَ بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ وَأَيْمَانِهِمْ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا أُولَٰئِكَ لَا خَلَاقَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَا يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Inna, indeed, allazina, those who yashtaruna, who sell, bi'ahdillahi, the promises of God, wa, and aymanihim, their oaths. So ayman is the plural of yameen. Yameen means an oath, a qasam. So aymanihim would mean their oaths. Samanan would mean price. Qalila would mean small price. Ulaika, they, la, not. Khalaqa means share. Lahum, for them. Fi, in. Al-akhirah, in the hereafter. So literally it would mean, indeed those who sell God's promise. Indeed those who sell God's promise, or indeed those sell God's promise and their oaths, trivial price. So this is how literally it would be translated. But idiomatically, of course, it would be, indeed those who sell God's promise and their oaths for a small price. Indeed, those who sell God's promise and their own oaths for a small price. Ulaika, they, la, not. Khalaqa, share, lahum, for them, fil akhirah, in the hereafter. So idiomatically it would mean they have no share. For them there is no share. La khalaqa lahum fil akhirah. They have no share in the akhirah, in the hereafter. Wa, and la, not. Yukallimuhum, talk to them. Allah, God, and not talk to them, God. Which means, and God will not talk to them. Wala yanzuru ilayhim, wa, and la, not. Yanzuru, he will look. Ilayhim, towards them. Yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of judgment. Wa, and la, not. Yuzakkihim, and purify them. So literally it would mean, and not God look towards them, day of judgment, and not purify them. And making sense of this, it would be, and God will not look at them on the day of judgment, and He will also not purify them. Wa, and lahum for them, azab, a torment, a punishment, aleem, a grievous, and for them punishment grievous. This is the literal translation. Obviously, the idiomatic one would be, and for them is a grievous torment. Okay. وَإِنَّ مِنْهُمْ لَفَرِيقًا يَلْوُونَ أَلْسِنَتَهُمْ بِالْكِتَابِ لِتَحْسَبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Wa and inna, indeed, minhum, from among them. Min is from, hum is them. So indeed from among them, lafariqan, indeed there is a fariq, there is a group. And what does that group do? Yalvuna. Yalvuna means twist. They twist. Alsinatihim, their tongues. Alsina is tongues, is the plural of lisan. Lisan means a tongue. Its plural is alsina. Hum is there. So who twist their tongues bil kitab, about the book. They twist their inna minhum fariqan yalvuna alsinatahum bil kitab would mean that they twist their tongues about the book, means while reading the book. Litahsabuhu, so that you think about it. Min al kitab, that it is from the book. Wama huwa min al kitab, whereas not it from the book. So idiomatically it would mean that there are those who read the book, and when they read it, they twist their tongues in such a way that they think that whatever you are reading is from God. So they would twist their words, and whatever the twisted form of the word would be, they would make you believe that this twisted form is actually what is written. And then there is a negation, wama huwa mil kitab, whereas this is not in the book, this is not found in the book. وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ مِنْ إِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Wa and yaquluna, they say, huwa it, min from, indillah, God. So idiomatically it would mean, and they say this is from God. This is from God. وَمَا هُوَ مِنْ إِنْدِ Wa and ma, not huwa it, min from, indillah, from God. Whereas it is not from God. They say it is from God, whereas it is not from God, because of course what they said was, by twisting their tongue they had now made a new sentence, and they gave this impression that this new sentence, after twisting their tongue, was actually what was written. So they are being negated, that what they say is not from God, whereas they say that it is from God. وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Wa and yaquluna, they say, عَلَى اللَّهِ, on God, al-kazib, falsehood or lie. Wa and hum, they, ya'lamun, know. And they ascribe falsehood to God, and they know about it. Again, this is the same thing that I'm pointing out, that they do it intentionally. Wahum ya'lamun, they ascribe something which is wrong, which is a falsehood. They ascribe it to God. They say it has been revealed to God. Wahum ya'lamun, and they very well know about it, which means that they do it intentionally. Okay. Ma kana li basharin an yu'tiyahu Allahu al-kitaba wal-hukma wal-nubuwa. Ma, not kana, was li bashar, about a bashar. A bashar of course means a human being. So it is not. So this style ma kana le is a style of the Arabic language that you'll encounter a lot in the Quran. Ma kana le basharin, ma kana li nabiyyin. So it means that it does not befit. So ma kana le is a idiom which means it does not befit, it does not behoove, it is not appropriate. So ma kana li basharin would mean it is not appropriate for a human being. And what is not appropriate? That comes in the next part. An yu'tiyahu Allahu al-kitaba, and that yu'tiyahu, he is given, Allah, from God, he is given from God. What is he given? Al-kitab, he is given a book. Wal hukum, hukum means the ability to give verdicts, the ability to decide. Wa and nabuwa, and prophethood. So what is being said is that it does not befit a human being to whom God has given a book and the ability to decide, and also given nabuwa, prophethood. And then what happens? Summa yaqula linnas, summa, then yaqula, he says, linnas, to the people, kunu, become, ibadan, servants, li, mine, become my servants. So what is being said here is that it is not befitting for a human being that God gives that human being a book and the ability to take decisions and prophethood, and then that human beings tells people that you become my servants. you become my ibad. So ibad is the plural of abd, implying that now he says that I'm your God, you are my servants. Min dunillahi, min du, leaving aside Allah, God, wa lakin, except. Lakin means indeed or but. Kunu, become. Rabbaniyin. So Rabbaniyin means become godly. Rabbaniyin, bima kuntum, because what? Kuntum, you. Tu'allimuna al-kitab. So this is that he will actually say that because tu'allimuna means you study. You teach. Tu'allimuna means you teach the book. Tu'allimun al-kitab, you teach the book. Wabima kuntum, and because you tadrusun, you study it. So you teach the book and you study it. So the whole sense is that this will never happen, that God gives a bashar, God gives a human being his own book and the ability to decide and prophethood. And then that human being would be so audacious that he would stand up and say that you become my servants, leaving aside God. But what he will actually say is, Kunu Rabbaniyin. Kunu Rabbaniyin, you become God's servants. You become godly. Bima kuntum, because kuntum tu'allimun al-kitaba. Because you teach the book of God and because you study the book of God. وَلَا يَأْمُرَكُمْ أَن تَتَّخِذُوا الْمَلَائِكَةَ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ أَرْبَابًا. Wala, and not. Ya'murakum, he will order you. An tattakhizu, that you make. Al malaika, the angels. So this is the plural of malak. Malak is angel and malaika is the plural angels. Wa, and nabiyina, the prophets. Arbaba, arbab is the plural of rab. So rab means Lord. And he will also not order you to become ya'murakum, that you make these angels and these prophets to be God, to be Lord. So what is being said is that if God gives this ability or this trait, that he blesses someone with prophethood and with the ability to decide, to give verdicts, and at the same time he also blesses him with the book, that person will never say that you become my servants, leaving aside God. In fact, he will say that you become God's servants because of the fact that you are teaching the book of God and because you are reading it. Nor will he say that you make the angels and the prophets to be Lord. So this is a negation on the part of God. Ya'murukum bil kufri ba'da is antum muslimun. Will you? Ya'murukum, give this order, bil kufr, about disbelief, ba'da, after, is when antum, you, muslimun, become Muslims. So which means that will he urge you? Ya'murakum, will he urge you? Will he order you to this form of disbelief after you have become Muslims? So this is like stating the impossible, that how can a prophet of God who's been given prophethood and the book and the ability to decide, he, instead of calling people to God, he will call people to himself and say that you become my servants. So that is why the Quran has said that ayyamurukum bil kufri ba'da antum muslimun, will he now ask you to do such kufr, such disbelief after you have become Muslims? Wa, and, is when akhazallahu, God made, misaq an-nabiyyin, misaq means a covenant, an-nabiyyin, about the prophets. Lama, and what was that? Lama is, la is just a particle of stress, emphasis. The actual word is ma. So lama, the part la is just adding stress to ma. Ma is when. Ataitukum, come to you. Min, from. Kitab means book. And wa is and. Hikmah means wisdom. Summa, after that. Ja'akum, comes to you. Rasulun, a prophet, a messenger. Musaddiqun lima ma'akum, in confirmation with what is amongst you, what is with you. This is a compound word. Musaddiqul lima ma'akum would mean in confirmation of that which is with you. Latu'minunna bihi, you shall definitely profess faith in him. Latu'minunna bihi, wa, and latansurunnahu, and you shall definitely help him. So literally it would mean, and when took God covenant about prophets, that when comes to you from something of a book or wisdom, and then comes to you a Rasul or a messenger who is in confirmation, which is already with you, you shall definitely profess faith in him and you shall definitely help him. So this is literal. And idiomatically it would mean, and remember when God took a covenant about the prophets, and what was that covenant? Lama ataytukum min kitabin wa hikmatin. The law and the wisdom which I have given to you. Ataytukum would mean I have given you. So ataytukum would mean when it comes to you, or I give it to you from among the book and the hikmah. So when I give you the law and the wisdom, and after that there is another prophet, there is another messenger who comes to you in confirmation of what is before you or what is with you, then you shall necessarily believe in him and you shall necessarily help him. So these are actually the words of the covenant. The words are that if such a messenger comes to you, you shall definitely profess faith in him and you shall definitely support him. So these are the words. In reply, what did the Israelites say? Qala and aqrartum wa akhaztum ala zalikum isri. So before that covenant is actually finalized, God once again asked them, aqrartum, do you acknowledge? Wa akhaztum ala zalikum, and you take responsibility, isri, of my covenant. So this is like saying that whenever the law and the wisdom which I have given you, when there comes a messenger in confirmation with that you already have, so you will have to profess faith in him and you'll have to believe in him. Now God said, if this is the case, aqrartum, will you accept and do you take the responsibility of holding this burden? Qalu, they replied, aqrarna, yes, we acknowledge, yes, we agree. Qala, God said, fashhadu. Fashhadu means bear witness. Wa, and ana, I. Ma'akum, ma' is with, kum is you, with you. Min, from, ash-shahideen, witnesses. So qalu aqrarna would mean that do you accept? And they said yes. And then when they said yes, God said, then bear witness and I bear witness with you. Faman tawalla ba'da zalika. Fa, therefore, man, he, tawalla, turned away. Ba'da zalika, after this. Fa, therefore, ulaika, he, whom, indeed, al-fasikun, the defiant. So he who turned away after this, then he indeed is the defiant. This is how literally we will translate it, but idiomatically, of course, it would mean, and he who after this turns away, which means that he who does not accept this, then it is such people who are defiant. So viewers, we now come to an end to this section of verses that we have studied. So there are a couple of constructions which are slightly challenging maybe, but of course, as I said, there are parts of the Arabic language in which at times, unless you know the construction from its own grammatical roots, it at times becomes difficult to translate, but I have tried that you are able to grasp the meaning of such constructions. And now if you have any questions regarding what we have studied up till now, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
डॉक्टर साहब ये क्वेश्चन जो मुझे करना था ये ऑर्गन डोनेशन से मुतालिक है, इसके बारे में बहुत कम मालूमात है और आमतौर पे मेरा ख्याल है कि जो मुस्लिम उम्मत है वो ये समझती है कि ये जायज नहीं है कि उसको टच करना भी, जैसे डेड बॉडी होती है तो उसको आमतौर पे लोग कह रहे होते हैं कि हाथ ना लगाओ, पेरेंट्स हैं तो प्यार ना करो, इस तरह की बातें कर रहे होते हैं। हालांकि इसका कोई ताल्लुक नहीं लगता अकल से इन चीजों का, लेकिन ऑर्गन डोनेशन के मुतालिक मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ कि आपका कोई प्रोग्राम है इससे मुतालिक या किसी डॉक्टर के साथ मिलके कि मतलब अगर आप मल्टीपल ऑर्गन डोनेट करना चाहते हैं तो उसमें क्या बॉडी वापस नहीं मिलती कि मिलती है, या एक चीज डोनेट करें, तो इससे मालूमात में बहुत कमी है, तो आप इस तरह का कोई प्रोग्राम करें।
In principle, I can give you this reply that all organs which are beneficial for people once a person passes away, they can be taken out, whether they are the eyes or the liver or the heart, even stem cells from the skin, they are useful. And there is nothing against the Sharia which in any way prohibits this. In fact, there has been a conference some years ago by many scholars which was precisely on this topic of organ donation, and a very vast majority actually endorsed it. So yes, there are still certain traditional scholars who don't endorse it, but they don't have any strong reasoning in support of it. So one of the reasons that they put forth is that this is like mutilating the body. This is like showing disrespect to the body. Obviously, we know that mutilating the body or showing disrespect to the body is something which relates to our intent. So when we are taking out an organ, we are not in any way showing disrespect. In fact, it is just the opposite. We are showing veneration. We are actually thanking that person's soul that he has been so generous or she has been so generous in donating one of his organs or one of her organs. So this is one of the reasonings that they give. And the second reasoning is that they say that a person is not the owner of his body, and how can he have this liberty of donating something that he does not own? So again, this is a very, very weak argument, because I mean, in our own lives, don't we donate blood? Don't we donate organs? Like, for example, we donate liver, we donate, I mean, part of our liver, or we donate one kidney as well. So yes, we, in a sense that we are not owners of our body, we have been entrusted with our bodies. God has given our bodies as a trust to us, but He has given us the leverage to use them in a positive way. So we are not using them in any negative way, and we are not violating any sort of trust. So these are the two arguments that they generally proffer, and both of them to me are very weak. So I think that organ donation is a very, very noble noble venture. If you're, in fact, I always urge people that they should try to become donors, and this donation can be made with regard to the city that you are living in. For example, if you live in Pakistan, then there are various facilities in Karachi, in Lahore, in Islamabad, where part of your bodies can be taken at the time of your death. Outside of Pakistan, I know there are facilities in the US, in the UK, in Australia, and many other countries in which, if you have a driving license, though on your driving license it is written that you are a donor. So if you're found in an accident and it is written that you are a donor, then they immediately take you to a hospital or a facility in which such a transplant can take place, and then they take out that organ. And other than that, if you die in a hospital or your own home, so that donor aspect is already known to your family, and it makes arrangement immediately by ringing up the concerned authorities that they can take the body and remove the beneficial organs and then return the body. And then there is another step, and that is that at times people donate their whole body to a medical institution so that experiment can be done on the cadaver. So cadaver is the dead body, the corpse. So that corpse is given to medical laboratories so that they can experiment on the complete body. The subject of anatomy is taught by, of course, by dissecting the body in various parts. So there are people who would not even like their body to be returned. I know of a very respectable person, very, very close to me, who has donated his whole body, and he has said that he would like to give it to a medical college in which his body could be used for any experimentation and dissection. So I think that all these are extremely noble endeavors, and one should do that.
और इसमें किस किस्म की मतलब जैसे छोटी मोटी बीमारियां होती हैं, जैसे ब्लड प्रेशर या शुगर या एस्मा वगैरह, तो वो उस तरह के भी लोग दे सकते हैं, या उसमें कुछ ये भी चीजें मालूमात की कमी?
You see, this is something which doctors mainly decide, but as far as your eyes are concerned, like for example the cornea, that is not affected by any ailment that you might have. Similarly, if you have a liver which is normal, even if you have some other ailments, that is generally acceptable. Your stem cells which are taken from the skin, they are also acceptable. So you see, it's just a question of consulting a doctor or someone who lives in your city, because they'll give you a card in which it is written that such and such an organ is something that we'll come and take out once you die. And if you are in Karachi, I think there's an institute by Dr. Adib Rizvi, who runs that institute, very, very famous institute. The name is slipping my mind. So you can donate to that institute as well. And they'll specify what they'll do.
Thank you for that, Dr. Saleem. Imran Babar, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Dr. Saab, Assalamu alaikum. Dr.
Saab,
my question is regarding the Dajjal, that what is our belief regarding the Dajjal, and after the Dajjal comes,
right.
what will happen? How will the Dajjal be taken down?
So actually, the word Dajjal is an incomplete word. If you, this is a very, something that we have to understand, that whenever we study our hadith, we must gather all the texts that relate a specific context. So if you gather all the texts which mention the word Dajjal, you will see the word actually is Al-Masih Dajjal, which means the false Christ or the Antichrist, which means someone near the end of time, if these narratives are true, he'll appear and call himself that he is Christ, whereas he will be deceiving people. He'll not be Christ, of course, and he'll be a false Christ, but he will deceive people by saying that I am the person that you were awaiting. So remember, the Jews are waiting for a Messiah, the Christians are waiting for the return of Jesus, and so are a majority of the Muslims. So it does seem that taking advantage of these beliefs, which is found in all these three Abrahamic religions, he will come near the end of time and he'll pose himself to be the Jal, which means he's the Masih, or he's the Jesus that people were waiting for. And then we know from ahadith that he would be killed. So Muslims and Christians, and he'll be from among the Jews most probably. And Muslims and Christians will be together against a fight with him, and he'll be ultimately killed by the Muslim army. So that is what comes out of these narratives.
Dr. Saab, these narratives, it says that he will be killed by Isa alayhi salam or by Mahdi.
Yes.
Now, अगर आप महदी का और ईसा अलैहि सलाम का, जैसे गामदी साहब कहते हैं कि वो नहीं आएंगे, तो क्या ये जो आप कह रहे हैं कि उनको मारा जाएगा, ये वही अहादीस है या कोई और अहादीस?
There are similar narratives, but the word Christ has been used. Of course, that is referring to the Christians as a whole, as a community. It's not that he's going to come and kill. Basically, there are narratives in which it is said that Muslims will kill them with the help of the Christians.
Shukriya.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Shabana Ansari, please ask your question.
डॉक्टर साहब, इसी के बारे में पूछना चाहिए थी कि फिर हमें अजर मिलेगा ना, कि मरने के बाद एक अजर तो मिल जाएगा अगर ऑर्गन डोनेट करें?
Yes. I think this is one of the best forms of Sadqatul Jariyah, which the ahadith mention, that anything that you do in your own life, and that benefit, whatever you do is beneficial for any person, then as long as it remains beneficial to people, it will add to your own account. So as long as your donated organ is used by someone, so you'll be getting the reward of that.
डॉक्टर साहब, तफसीली इस पर कोई प्रोग्राम करें दोबारा से, ताकि लोगों को थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में मालूमात हो.
I keep doing that. It's not a topic that we can spend an hour or so, but I have answered so many questions and written on this topic a lot. And wherever I go when I'm called for a lecture on various topics, one of the topics that invariably comes up is of organ donation. And I'm a very, very big believer and advocate of organ donation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Saleem, I have a question. So, murder is, of course, one of the greatest sins in Islam. So, when people commit suicide, isn't that taking your own life? Isn't that murder against the self? So,
It is.
So, my question is, and I might sound a little controversial here. So suicide, how we perceive it in Islam and how the West perceives it, where they explain it away with a lot of mental health issues. And mental health issues is such a vague term. There's a mental disease like schizophrenia and everything else, and then there's a mental health issue, which is very vague. How do you explain it to the youth or even to an adult where all their judgment has been marred by, by people explaining suicide away with, mental health, and there's somebody who's depressed or anxious, and they're not focused on the fact that they actually took away a life. They killed themselves.
So you see, it all depends on the freedom of intent that you have. If someone does this out of, self-harm, in which at times people are so, they've lost their mind to such an extent that they don't know what they are doing. So maybe they would be given some excuse. The thing is that the Almighty will hold people responsible to the extent that they had their own freedom to choose what path they wanted to do, what path they wanted to tread. So if a person is compelled, or for example, if a person has such a disease that his judgment is clouded, and he does something that relates to self-harm and he's not fully aware of it, then again that is an entirely different matter. If a person is schizophrenic, or if a person has hallucinations, or all these things that might lead him to do something in which he is not exercising his free will in the way that we think a person does, then these are all exceptions, and these are all cases in which he may be given that legitimate excuse to some extent. So, what we need to understand is that basically God is just. He is going to punish us for things that we do out of our own full intention. And in that intention, killing someone is, I mean, murder is murder, whether you commit it against yourself or against someone else. It's just a question of killing someone. So, killing someone without justification, as the Quran says, بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ, is something which is a grave crime. And if it is done in this manner, then the Quran says, "Man qatala mu'minan muta'ammidan fajaza'uhu jahannam," which means that if a person kills a believer intentionally, I mean, he is definitely and intentionally killed someone, then it says that he is going to be condemned to eternal hell. Of course, that is another matter if that person who is being who he has killed, if he forgives that person in the hereafter, that might be a different scene. But if he is not forgiven, then the Quran says that for him is eternal hell. So such is the grave nature of taking a human life. So actually the sanctity of human life is something that has to be hammered into our heads. And if you remember, I've been talking about this when we often discuss the issue of animal sacrifice or qurbani, because you see, this is one area that the Almighty has made in a way, or crafted in a way, that we understand the sanctity of human life. So the argument goes like this, that we cannot even take a human, the life of an animal, unless we ask God's permission, let alone the life of a human being. So you see, even when you kill an animal and you don't say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, then you are not authorized to eat that meat, because simply you have not asked for God's permission. So the reason that this permission has been made mandatory is to give you this idea how important taking a life is. So you cannot take the life of an animal also, I mean, what to speak of a human being, without God's permission. So a step higher is taken that.
So then that, of course, includes our own life as well. And then
Of
actually
course,
what my
it
question
does.
was leading, what I was leading to is that when growing up, as you said, it was hammered into our head, because we came from, I guess, Pakistan. So that's, khudkushi was haram. That's what we were told. But of course, moving to the West, the youth has a different perspective on it, especially, when celebrities seem to take their life away. So it always becomes that you feel sorry for them instead of the
Yeah.
fact that, you
Right.
abhor the idea. So that
Right.
was I was leading to.
Yes, I do understand. You see, that is the reason that we have to, try to inculcate this sense in our younger generation how important life is, whether you take it, or whether it's your own life or someone else's life. This is like something which God regards to be a sacred trust, and you just cannot trespass into that. So it's like, building a base, making our children understand the importance of life, and how even if a person is in a miserable position, in a miserable situation, you might kill a bird. You might kill a cat or a dog who is dying, so that you would not like to inflict more pain, which is what we call euthanasia for animals. But for human beings, this pain is something which God has ordained. And instead of escaping from this pain by killing oneself, the attitude which we have been taught from our scriptures is that we have to bear this pain, tolerate this pain, because if we tolerate this pain and still be thankful to God, then this will become a means of our own forgiveness. So you see, the whole perspective is entirely different. Because for them, the hereafter is something, you see, our younger lot is influenced by a lot of atheistic thinking, in which you see Christians, for example, or Jews, for example, not so much as the Jews, but mostly people who are Christians, because they think that if they believe in Jesus dying on the cross for their own sins, so to them to do a sin is not that a big deal. It is something of a big deal as far as the state is concerned, because for the state they have to be punished. But in the larger sense, in the larger scheme of things before God, they know that Jesus has already bought them that salvation. So you see, that makes another case in favor of being a very loose or careless in the case of the lives of people.
Wonderful point. That is so correct. Thank you so much for that explanation, Dr. Saleem. Muhammad Asif Gumra, we just have a couple of minutes. If you can just make your question short. Please go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Dr. Saab, normally we have a tradition, if somebody died, put into kafan and showing the, face showing. What is Islamic status on that? I know it's a tradition, or is something tradition come from last, from...
This is just like a cultural thing. If you would like to show the face, normally it happens when people reach at the last moment when the person is being buried, they were not able to see that person who was generally made to lie in state in front of people when they could watch him. And this face is open for people who would like to see him for the last time. So it's just like a thing that you can do in deference to people who would like to see him for the last time, the person who's passed away. It has nothing to do with religion.
Yeah,
I mean,
is it was a tradition at the time of Prophet or later on? I'm just
personally, I don't have any knowledge of that, because such details are not generally divulged in our history books. I mean, it is something that could be a later addition, and it could be something. I mean, even if it was the time of the Prophet, as I said, this is more to do with our cultural and our own upbringing. It has nothing to do with religion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what my understanding, because for the last few time, and I attended few, I have done volunteering for Ghusl as well as,
I see.
so, and it just come to my mind that, and by the way, you did a very good job on organ transplant, because I work in the organ transplant field in Canada, handle all over Canada, SIUT and other part of the world.
Okay. So yes, it's SIUT. Yeah, this is suit, which is yeah.
I know people over there. Plus, also there's a very big program in this interior scene, Gumbert liver transplant program.
Gumbert, yes. Right.
Yeah, it's a very big one, free. And Saudi Arabia has a very large plan. People come from the conferences and we meet them. So there's absolutely, there's no inhibition in such a way, So
Thank you so
Jazakallah
much.
for clarifying the other people
Okay.
on that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
Jazakallah.
much. Appreciate you.